The Mario and Luigi Dream Team boss ranking is not the worst video on my channel, but my god, that does not mean it's good. I mean, it has this stupid chicken nugget ad that I left in the video. There's just long strands of footage that I don't cut anything with, so it's really boring to watch the video itself, and my voice sounded really dumb and just no energy, so I decided I might as well remake this video. Also, of course, my ranking has changed a bit, so that also helps it. So this is not going to be including the exact same bosses that I did not include in the original, like the Hoorah Disciples, the Giant Battles, and the X-Bosses. This is just to keep it as authentic to the original as possible. Other than that though, let's get started on this video. But actually, before we get started, make sure to hit that like button. Let's try to hit 100 likes on this video, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But other than that, let's get started on this video. Yeah, Smoldergeist is not very good. I've stuck with this since my original ranking 8 months ago, because Smoldergeist is just bad. I mean, I have no idea why it's considered a boss fight. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just feels like at best a tutorial boss and at worst just normal enemies. I also don't really like the concept of the fire and wind. If you dodge their attack correctly, then they won't be on fire anymore, but if you miss, then they're still going to be on fire. But if you get stuck in a position where every single one is on fire, you can't do anything to them. You either have to heal, or you have to jump on them and take damage. In my opinion, that's really stupid. I really wish there was a way to take out the fire completely. And if there was, I would have been fine with this fight more. Also, there's no bros attacks or anything. The only way to damage this guy is just from jumping, which is really boring on your end. Obviously, there's just not many good things about this fight. The only thing you can really say about it is that their attacks are okay, and there's more than one. Again, they just feel like normal enemies, and if this was just treated like normal enemies, it would have been completely fine. But since it's treated like a boss, it is absolutely the worst boss in this game. Way worse than number 12. Number 12 is leagues above Smoldergeist in my opinion. So Grobot is definitely not a bad fight. Even though it's only one spot above Smoldergeist, it is leagues above that fight. Grobot in reality is just a fine, okay fight. It's not phenomenal or anything, but it does work. I mean, the attacks are decent. The difficulty's okay. The only thing I do want to point out is that the bros attacks are definitely repetitive, because the only bros attacks you have at this moment are the red shell and the green shell, which in reality are exactly the same. Now, this is very different compared to every single other boss fight. Let's say Torkscrew, the boss fight after this one. Well, the boss fight after Grobot is Bowser and Tasma, but the next real-world boss fight is Torkscrew. For Torkscrew, you have the red shell for Mario still, but for Luigi, you have the fire flower. Those are definitely different attacks. There's no repetitive nature for me personally. But for this fight, you're technically just doing the exact same bros attack every single turn, and that's where it gets somewhat repetitive, and that's why Grobot is this low on this list. It's definitely not a bad fight, and if that's really the only negative I have for it, that's not really a bad thing. It's definitely not the worst fight in the world, but I mean, it's not a great fight either. Again, it's a very early fight, so it does make sense to be this low. Torkscrew is basically Grobot if you gave him a bit better attacks and you gave Luigi a fire flower, so the bros attacks aren't actually that repetitive. That's it. I mean, his attacks are decent, but I mean, the only thing that's really entertaining about it is that you can knock him over, and that's kind of funny to look at. And knocking him over literally does nothing because you don't have a bros attack that actually can make you jump on him. I know it lowers his defense, but it really doesn't make sense. I really wish this boss fight was after you get the bye-bye cannon, but other than that, I mean, everything else about it, it's fine. I basically have no complaints about it at all. There's nothing wrong with this fight, but there's nothing really that stands out about it either, which is why it's so low on this list. You know what? For a boss fight that you have absolutely no illusionary attacks for, Dreaming Mario works pretty dang well, mainly for two reasons. The first reason is, of course, the attacks from Phantasma and Dreaming Mario. I think they work, and my favorite one is Star Mario, because it's just really fun to dodge. The other one, of course, is the concept of the fight. I actually think this is one of the best copy fights in the entire Mario & Luigi series. I'm thinking of bosses like Kamek and Mrs. Thwomp, because I mean, they split into different copies, but most of the time you just want to attack the real one to do a ton of damage. But for this boss fight, you want to attack a copy that's really close to the real one, because then the illusionaries can actually jump on the real one, which does more damage than just straight up jumping on the real one, which is a very unique way to take out Dreaming Mario, and I really do enjoy that part. But, of course, there is definitely some stuff keeping it at number 10. The first thing that I already mentioned is that you have absolutely no illusionary attacks, so you attacking is somewhat boring, even though I guess the concept does somewhat compensate for that. But the other thing, and I just cannot get over this one, this fight is so forgettable to me. I have no idea why I cannot remember this fight. It just doesn't make sense. Mainly because, I mean, I guess it's probably because you have no bros attacks. That's probably the main reason for it, but I just can never remember this fight. And it's really disappointing too, because this is probably one of the best early game fights in Dream Team, so this is why it's number 10. It's not actually a bad fight, but if there was bros attacks for it, I think it definitely would have been higher. I have basically nothing to say about this boss fight. The Bowser and Phantasma boss fight is fine. The attacks are pretty good, even though this boss fight is pretty short, so they kind of cancel each other out. And it is somewhat weird to use the illusionary ball here, because the only use for it is to destroy the Phantasma bats, but that's not really a complaint. So there's basically nothing here that's notable. So yeah, this boss fight is completely fine. This is probably one of the shortest segments on my channel. This fight is very weird, because it actually combines two types of fights that we've seen in the Mario & Luigi games. Obviously, Wiggler fights and Popple fights. I actually think this is a pretty good Wiggler fight, but I don't think this is a very good Popple fight. So let's start with the Wiggler fights. The main thing about the Wiggler fights is that most of the time they always stick to a very simple concept of making all the body parts yellow and then just attacking the head. That's very boring, but for this fight, it works a little bit differently. I guess it's a bit more generic, but I think the attacks from Wiggler are better. And that's why I actually like this Wiggler fight a decent amount. But for the Popple side of things, well, first off, the main thing that I like about Popple fights is that you get to choose who you want to take out first. Mainly, I'm going to use Superstar Saga, obviously, as the main example. If it was a Popple and Rookie fight, you could decide to kill Rookie first, or you can decide to kill Popple. In this fight, you don't have that option. You have to kill Wiggler first, and then you have to kill Popple, which, in my opinion, is just not as good. I really wish you could actually choose between the two, because eventually you're going to be fighting both in this fight. Obviously, you can only damage Popple after, but I really wish you could damage both of them. It would have made the fight a bit more unique. And I do like this fight overall. It's definitely a decent fight, but I really wish it did have that Popple fight quality, and that would have made this fight really good in my opinion. But how it is right now, it definitely only deserves to be at number 8. After a long time thinking of what I should say about this fight, I finally got something, but that kind of shows that I really do not have much to say about it. I mean, obviously the attacks are pretty good. This is the first boss that has a genuinely difficult screen chaser with basically a illusionary stack with Big Massive, and he sends shockwaves at you, but it's actually multiple times, so it's pretty hard to dodge. But my favorite part about the fight is that his attacks are very stressful, but if you kill his minions, he gets his power buffed like crazy, so it's pretty scary if you don't dodge it. So I do like that part of the fight, but everything else about it is fine. I mean, I wish he had a bit more health, but other than that, he is a very solid fight. He's kind of the gateway to the good fights in Dream Team. this fight is very weird to me, because I like the Kamek fight a lot. I mean, he splits into different copies, 4 to be exact, and they all have their own individual health, which is a very good thing in my eyes. I also like that one of the Kameks actually heal the rest of them, and I also like that each of the Kameks do a different thing. And I think I also like the attacks, from what I remember. Yeah, this is the reason why Kamek is at number 6, because I like the fight a decent amount, but I don't remember any of the attacks. I don't remember what most of the Kameks do, so in that regard, it only deserves to be number 6 because nothing sticks in my head, which is really disappointing to me because I like this fight a lot. I remember liking it, and to be fair, when I replayed this game for my channel, I completely forgot about the Kamek fight. When I was actually gonna be fighting Kamek. I just completely forgot it existed until I played this game. So, I guess it was a welcome surprise, but since it never stuck with me, it only deserves to be at number 6. The top 5 are the great fights in Dream Team. I really do like these fights, but I will say that Palladium is definitely the worst out of the 5, mainly because it just feels like a generic boss fight. That does not mean it's bad though. In fact, it's a very good fight, mainly because this fight feels extremely fast-paced. I mean, the Jetboard Bash is a very fast attack, you have the Sling Sniper, which is also pretty fast, and its attacks themselves are also pretty fast, especially the laser one. But the main concept for this fight is that you have to take out his wings, and then he'll fall to the ground. But the thing about it is that when you break his wings, he falls to the ground, obviously, and it lowers his defense. But the most unique part about it is that it also slows down his attacks. That is really cool, and it actually is very unique, and obviously a very good feature in my opinion. Also, his attacks are pretty good. The Screen Chaser is very hard to dodge. I mean, in general, this is just a great fight. I really do like it. Again, the only thing about it that I don't really like is that it's just kind of generic as a boss fight, and maybe I wish it was a bit harder. But other than that, it is a great fight that I really do like fighting. For the people that don't like this fight, I understand why. For the people that just don't really remember this fight, I actually think it's very underrated. Mainly because this fight is difficult, even on normal mode. Mainly because its attacks are very hard to dodge. Like the boulder attack, the snowball attack, the Screen Chaser. And in my opinion, all 3 of them are very fun. And even the ending segment was out of nowhere and very fun. And very satisfying to actually finally kill him. I also like that the weak point is on his head, increasing the use of the Bye-Bye Cannon and the Drop Chopper, which I think are okay enough bros attacks. At least they get a good use here. I also like that enemies come in that can actually throw a helmet on Momoshko. Some of them are spiky, some of them you just can't do any damage to it, and some have a crack in them so you can actually break the helmet. But you could also use stuff like the Drop Chopper or the Green Shell / Red Shell to actually destroy every single enemy, and he won't have a helmet on him at all. Which in that regard I think is pretty good. I mean, I really like this boss fight. It has a decent amount of health, the attacks are really good and fun to dodge. I love a lot about this boss fight, and on hard mode, it's just a phenomenal boss. And it's very early in the game too, which is very fun in my opinion. The only reason why it's not higher is straight up because I think the other bosses on the list are better. This is a great fight that did everything it could to actually be a great one. And it is in my opinion. That's why it deserves to be number 4. Oh no, guys, it's the vegan chicken nugget ad. We gotta get it out of here. Oh no. Okay, cool, it's done. So the Elite Trio fight is actually very good, mainly because of the concept. And obviously people love the concept because it is just so unique. You have to kill every single one of the members at once. And you can do this because Legionary attacks attack multiple members. But you can also just focus on one, getting them down to 1 HP, because when they actually revive each other, they only revive each other to 1 HP. Also, their attacks are really good, and they attack more than once. I really like the Bullet Bill attack. I like the Big Goomba Tower. I really like the Big Bomb. I mean, their attacks are great. The concept is great. The health they have is pretty good. The difficulty, I love everything about this fight. The only reason, and I mean the only reason, it's not at the top 2 is because it's not a final boss and it doesn't have a final boss theme. That's literally the only reason it's only number 3. But everything else, I love this fight. It's just such a unique concept, and it's why it's all the way up here at number 3. This top 2 is so extremely close because I was constantly switching them when I was working on this list. Number 1, it could have been Dreamy Bowser. Number 1, it could have been Phantasma. But for now, Dreamy Bowser is my second favorite boss fight in this game. I really love this boss fight. The attacks are really good. I really like that he heals. A lot of people hate that, but I really do enjoy it. Back to his attacks. I really like the minion attack. I really like the screen chase segment. Both are really good attacks in this game. I really like the arms concept. I also like that he heals them, and I like that his arms actually covers his weak spot, which is a good thing in my opinion. I really like that the Bye-Bye Cannon and the Drop Chopper get a role in this fight, a big one, because they're not really bros attacks that you would expect to have a good role. There's so many great things about this fight, but the only reason it's number 2, and I said this in my original boss ranking, this boss fight is easy on hard mode, which isn't really a problem inherently, but since it was on hard mode, I felt a bit disappointed and somewhat unfulfilled, which is why it's number 2, and compare that to number 1, I didn't really think that that boss fight was super easy, but Dreamy Bowser was easy enough where I was a tiny bit disappointed, and that was enough to put it at number 2. Phantasma is my favorite boss in this game. I'm pretty sure it was obvious. I mean, I really love this boss fight. Mainly because of the attacks. I mean, the attacks are just so good. I mean, obviously the bad attack. I really like the attack where he basically shuffles himself up with some copies and you have to hit the magic ball back at him. I really like that Mario can fall asleep in the dream world, which is very scary. Also, Dreambird's helping you by healing you a bit. And when he falls asleep, Phantasma wakes you up in a nightmare, and you have to go in to find the right exit. But if you go into the wrong exit, you actually get confronted with saw blades, and the saw blades can cut you up. And, I mean, it doesn't do too much damage, but you don't have invincibility frames, and you lose control of yourself, which I actually think is a really good payoff, and it's really fun to get out of there. Also, you can jump over the exits, so you can actually see which one's the right one, and Phantasma is shooting fire at you, so you can get knocked into an exit that you don't actually want to go into. Phantasma is just such a great boss. I like the orbs that surround him as well. I really like that this boss isn't super easy. I mean, it's definitely an easy boss fight, but it's not super easy that I wasn't, like, fulfilled. I actually was fulfilled compared to Dreamy Bowser. And since it isn't the final boss, I wasn't actually disappointed. I mean, this is a great boss fight, and it absolutely deserves to be number 1. Thank you guys for watching this video. My next video will probably be like the Color Splash World Ranking. Make sure to leave a like on this video. Again, let's try to hit 100 likes. And make sure to subscribe if you last this long. But other than that, G-bye.